Good morning. Welcome to Enduro 360. I'm your host, Chili White. Today we're here to do a little follow-up talking about 2013 Husaberg air filters. All right. To catch you up today, if you haven't been following 2013 Husaberg, we have this all-new construction, composite subframe and airbox design. A lot of discussion going on, continuing about how well the air filter is sealing. We talked about this earlier. This is the plastic band that holds the air filter in place, and it has to go in and clip in its location right here to hold it. So what we've got here, this air filter has been in for 3 rides. You can see it's pretty dirty. It hasn't been dusty out, but it's been a little bit muddy. We've been to the track twice and have 1 day out of riding in the desert. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this apart. We're going to take a look, see how well our air filter is sealing. And then we're going to try to put together a couple of options of things that might improve the sealing on it. But before we go any farther, here's what I really want to show you. So a lot of discussion about what kind of tension this plastic tab gives, if it's sufficient to really hold the air filter in place well. Well, one of the things you notice when I put my hand up here and start pulling on it, the tab has a reasonable amount of tension. But as I pull down here, you can not only see the filter start to come away from the airbox, but you can actually see the whole airbox moves just a little bit. So let's see what we got going on inside. Total ride time on this air filter as it sits is probably about 6 hours. Okay, we're looking pretty good. This is really clean all the way around the rim here. You can see a little dirt on the edge, but you can see the sealing surface, and it's actually doing quite well. Same thing in the airbox. Now I've dropped one little speck of dirt right there as I've taken it out, but the whole rim is pretty clean. A little bit of dirt here, but that's dirt that fell on as I was taking it apart. And you know, this kind of goes with what I've been thinking so far. Is I don't think it's so much an issue of that we really have a design problem, but we're right on the edge of our quality of the seal. So let's take a look. We're going to put a new filter on here. We'll get rid of this one and take a look at a couple of ideas and see if any of these prove to be an advantage. Okay, we've mounted a fresh air filter up here on our cage. This is the flow filter from PC Racing. And so what some of the guys are talking about is taking something like a washer or a spacer here, spacing that out to put a little more tension on the whole apparatus. Or the other idea is, this is the neoprene seal from PC Racing that mounts into the airbox. Now I haven't actually tried any of these yet. I thought I'd do it right here on camera and see what the results we're looking at. So the first thing we're going to do is take our, we haven't oiled up this filter just to make it a little easier to work with. We'll try putting a little spacer on top of here in the airbox and see what that does to the whole setup. I'm going to take a minute and clean up the airbox a little bit here before we start. You know, I like to use WD-40 cleaning inside the airbox. It gives you that degreaser quality of using like a carb cleaner, but it leaves just a little bit of a tacky film in there. So like in the surface of the airbox here, I think it actually helps stop or attract dirt. And I think WD just makes a great all-around cleaner for something like that. Okay, airbox is cleaned up. We've got our fresh filter sitting in there. Again, this is unoiled just so we can work on it. We're going to take this little bonded washer spacer right here, slide it over that. In fact, it fits on there just perfect. Get that in, get that in. I always like to reach back and make sure I can really feel that cage down in there good. Okay, so now we've got that set up. We obviously have a little more pressure on here. And there's no doubt that seems to be the amount of flex or movement down here definitely seems to be a little bit less. And when it does move, it's moving the whole filter away. That's kind of interesting. You know, this is what concerns me a little bit. Is you see how much kind of natural flex this part of the airbox has in it. It's not that flex is bad so much, but when it's affecting the sealing surface, that's not a great thing. But I definitely think that was a little bit better than the stock setup was, and I'll show you just a minute. That's a bonded washer that I just picked up from Home Depot. When you're in the hardware aisle at Home Depot, they've got the little drawers of all kinds of neat little metric bolts, nuts, and washers. That's where this came from. It's called a 5/16 bonded sealing washer, and that actually fit just perfectly. It's neoprene on the inside, metal on the outside, so that looks like a pretty good choice if you decide to go with something as a spacer to add more tension to the filter. Next up, we're going to take a look at the PC Racing Pro Seal air filter gasket. This neoprene gasket adheres to the airbox, and we'll see how that does for giving a little more positive seal with the air filter. Okay, we've put the neoprene seal on. Pull out like that. That's stuck to the airbox right there. So that actually works pretty well. The filter still went right in, no problem. So I'm gonna oil this baby up and put her together. I have oiled up our flow air filter. This is the PC Racing filter. It's pretty cool. It comes with this little dust cover filter skin. Actually very similar to the Twin Air product, which I think they're a great idea because you can run it till it gets a little bit dirty, pull this cover off, and you basically still have a clean filter underneath. As to whether running our neoprene seal here is going to be better than putting a spacer washer on here, we're just going to have to run it a little bit and see. I'm still a little tossed on that, but I can see one thing here. If you watch, I'm going to put my hands right here and I'm going to pull on this to simulate if we were adding a little spacer in here. And every little bit that I pull causes the airbox to flex right over here by my finger. And obviously, anytime the airbox is flexing, that's probably not a good thing. So for now, we're going to go with the PC Racing setup. Because the KTM Husaberg style air filter fits into the hole in the airbox, we've spaced it up a little bit with this neoprene washer. It takes a little more work to make sure you've got the cage properly set into the airbox, but it seems pretty secure once it's on there. We'll just have to rack up some miles on this and see how she plays out. Okay, that pretty much wraps up our update on the Husaberg air filter. We've got the Pro Seal gasket in there. We're going to try that for a little bit, see how it works out. I have to say, I'm still not completely convinced that there's an absolute problem with the design, but I do say that it warrants a little extra precaution. And you know, obviously the one thing we haven't talked about is the very simplest thing you can do, and that is grease your air filter. Doesn't cost anything. It's a little bit of a pain to clean up, but that certainly is the simplest way to make sure you've got a little better seal on that Husaberg air filter. All right, thanks for talking in. We will give you an update on this after we get some time on it, and we will talk to you soon.